welcome back to my channel, A Nourished Life. My name is Amanda. I am a homeschooling mom to 4. I'm so excited that you are here today. Today we are going to kick off a homeschool series. I'm going to share a little bit about our home education and hopefully it inspires you. It gives you some ideas to implement in your own home. Today is in collaboration with Abby from Rooted in Rest and Jessica from the Waldock Way, talking about curriculum hits and misses from the previous year. Also, let me know in the comments what else you would like to see from our homeschool. What kind of homeschool content do you enjoy? What is inspiring to you? I would love to walk alongside you on this journey as I learn with you with my grade 1, kindergarten, preschool, and baby school. This year, my oldest just turned 6, so a little bit of a backstory. I started researching educational philosophy a couple years ago. It was about a year and a half ago that I was at my friend's house and I saw a book I really wanted to read in her book cabinet, and I was like, hey, can I borrow that? And she's like, sure, it's a wonderful book. So I ended up reading For the Children's Sake, and it was just so wonderful. And I've reread it a few times since. And then I really started looking into what a classical Charlotte Mason education was. I will link a few of my favorite resources that I love to learn from down below in the description. But that just gives you a little context for the curriculum choices that we go with. And ever since, I have dug deep into Mason's volumes. I say deep as you can go in a year. I would like to have one of her educational philosophy volumes in rotation throughout my whole homeschool journey. I started a book club with my friend. We're reading through home education, and it's just really changed our home. I think Charlotte Mason just lays out a beautiful way to live. All right, so this year for curriculum choice, we ended up using the CMEC for our book spine. Now, this was a wonderful decision for us. Just a jam-packed resource on their online platform. They have a mother's education course that I went through this year, learning all about self-education and narration and just really laying out how to set up an education that is facilitated by self-education. And so that's why I love Charlotte Mason philosophy. It really gets down to what is good for persons, what is good for people, all people, our students, moms, families, and so it's really been a huge blessing. CMEC was a book list that was kind of our spine. I did not use every single book on the list, and I cannot share every single book on the list based on their policies that you sign up for when you are a part of their curriculum. Okay, so I'm going to share some of the hits, some of the misses, and in another video I will share what we are doing this year, and I am very excited for that. Okay, so let me grab the books. So hit number 1 for using the CMEC was definitely the Mother's Education course. And all of their video content, just learning how Charlotte Mason would set up a lesson. So the method of a lesson, why to keep short lessons, how to do that with young children that are learning to narrate, learning to pay attention, learning to obey. That was very, very helpful. I'm a very visual learner, so it was nice to be able to see these seasoned moms, listen to their advice for a new homeschooling mom with just a Form 1B student, which is equivalent to first grade in Charlotte Mason speak. That was the first hit. The Mother's Education course was definitely wonderful for me. I would say that this year, well, I had a new baby. We moved. We lived in a trailer for part of the time. We lived with family for part of the time. So there really was a lot of moving pieces in our homeschool year. And on paper, it could look really discouraging that we didn't do much. But when we look over the year and I look at each of my children and how they've grown, I know that it was really a successful year. And it was really a year to get my bearings in educational philosophy and in the way I wanted to set up our homeschool. It was also a year of just really building good habits for my children. So habits of attention that are going to set them up for the long haul, habits of best effort, and just the daily rhythm and home habits that set you up for a delightful family life. So that was really like the core takeaways from this year. Even if we don't have this concrete on paper look at everything we did, I really had to fight that modern utilitarian mindset that is being retrained in my mind. Another huge hit with our curriculum was the very built out guides that the CMEC provides. So for every single subject, they have a pretty hefty guide laying out recommendations for pages read per lesson, lesson times, like the length of a lesson, the method of the lesson, and some ideas to supplement the lesson. So those were all very, very helpful, especially when it came to kindergarten and just setting up a young child for later formal years, for when they do turn 6 years old. They have a wonderful built out guide for those children, the best book list that I've seen and for young children, and it just was a real blessing to be able to refer to in my binder of guides. So that was helpful. Okay, so as far as what I actually ended up reading to my children and used in their curriculum, we did the Burgess Seashore book this year. And while we were going through this, I was kind of discouraged because we weren't able to read very much in a sitting. And in my utilitarian mind, right, it was like, oh, we're not going to finish this book this year. That means it was a failure. Which, not at all. We're going to revisit this as my future children come into school, and we will keep Burgess in our elementary curriculum because it is just so delightful to read, and the vocabulary is very high, and my children really enjoyed it, even if we were only able to read a page or two in the lesson. We have pictures, and we were able to take this, paint from it, do some nature study, and the way that he lays out the story, way of teaching natural history, was very delightful for my children. Another hit was I coordinated some nature days and nature walks with some local families. So we would go twice a month, and I picked 4 of the same locations so that we would hit each one in each season. We made it halfway through the year before so many families were having babies and they just weren't able to make it each time. But when we did go, all of the children just had such a wonderful time, and there were a few places on the beach that this was so fun to think about when we were looking at how the tide changes and the different shells that we find and the creatures that might be in the water and the ones that come on land, and just very delightful. So this was a hit, and we will be doing Burgess again this year, though not the Seashore book. All right, the next curriculum hit that was within the nature study natural history category was Arabella Buckley. We did Birds of the Air, and then we also did Insect Life. So Birds of the Air we got almost completely through, and this was really delightful. My daughter really enjoyed this one this year. Where we live, there are a lot of really fun birds around, so just thinking about building the habit and the skill of observation and just looking around and noticing God's world, looking at birds was such a fun introduction to that, and our whole family really took off with this. One of the locations that we go to for our nature walks is a wildlife bird refuge, and that was just really fun to supplement alongside this reading. So we will definitely pick that one up again in later years for my other children. Then we did Insect Life. This one, we only read a little portion of it. Same by Arabella Buckley. We really like her. I like the way that she teaches a topic like science in a literary way with great vocabulary. So this is definitely not a textbook, but you learn so much from just a few paragraphs, and I really enjoyed that. For our special study for our last term, we did end up raising butterflies. So from Insect Lore, we just ordered their little cup of caterpillars, and it took about 3 weeks to watch them turn into butterflies. And so the first few chapters of Insect Life goes over caterpillars, what is an insect, familiar moths, familiar butterflies, and that was really fun to be reading alongside of our butterfly unit. Okay, the next hit for our curriculum was Little Folks of Many Lands for geography. Now this book, each chapter, it's a reprinted book through Riverbend Press. They took an old book, reprinted it, and it is just so beautiful. But every chapter focuses on a child in a different country and what life looks like for them. And what I noticed with my children is that they love learning about other children. And so this was a beautiful way to learn geography. Look at the map and, oh, where are they? You know, where are they in compared to where we are? So I highly recommend this book. It's also just really beautiful and it was delightful. Again, we didn't finish it, but what we did read was really wonderful. And I love that we can circle back to that. Okay, for our Tales in Literature, we did Aesop's Fables. These were really fun. They're very short and very great for children learning to narrate. We just really enjoyed these. My kids still pick this up and just look through it for fun. As far as our other Tales in Literature, the other books that were scheduled, my children still very, very much love picture books and books with a ton of pictures in them. And the other options did not have those, which is fine. And I think there's a time and a place for children to kind of just be able to visualize that in their mind. But what I ended up doing was checking out from the library some really beautifully illustrated fairy tales. And that was very enjoyable for them. So we kind of did more of that route. I do plan to use the Blue Fairy book this year. We tried it this past year, and again, it was just one of those things that when there are not so many pictures, the habit of attention really gets stretched and our lesson got cut short. So another one of those things that we will just revisit later. So what I did end up grabbing though was my mother-in-law has the entire My Book House series, and it is just wonderful for fairy tales and nursery rhymes and poetry, and they're very sweet stories, and my children love this. So we end up reading one or two of these at bedtime, and they really enjoy that. So we're going to keep reading through these as part of our fairy tales, and those are enjoyable. All right, so one of our other hits was so we do read straight from the Bible for our Bible times, but when it came to our school times, it was scheduled to read through 1 Samuel and Matthew. What I ended up doing for that, because the habit of attention was really rough for that, and it was not something that we were all looking forward to, which I really want the Bible to be something that is woven throughout our days and that is enjoyable. So what I ended up doing, I have the Dwell Bible app on my phone. It is a very fun, very well done app. I use it for listening to an audio Bible. It is very delightful. There's different music to it, different voices that you can choose for your Bible app. But while we were eating breakfast, I picked the children's version, and the kids just loved listening to children read the Bible and that translation option that they have on there. Well, normally we read ESV or New King James. I think I'm going to incorporate more of the King James version in our Bible times, just so our children can get more and more used to that old language, so that it helps benefit them later down the road in understanding more classic literature. So that'll probably be the version that we primarily use in our school time. We definitely will still be using the New King James Version in our family Bible time because that is what my husband prefers and enjoys. So for our school time Bible time, what we ended up doing is the Kingdom of God. Now this was not part of the CMEC. This is just what I ended up subbing out. These were so wonderful and my children very, very much enjoyed them. It is a beautiful way to read through the Bible chronologically. And I just think that they did such a wonderful job with these. And it really gives you the big picture of the timeline in the Bible. So there's the Old Testament and the New Testament. And then they also have parables of Jesus, which I would like to get eventually. But this is what we added to our morning time. And all the children really looked forward to it every single day. So that was wonderful. Misses. History was such a miss. It just did not click for us this year. I have to give us some credit because we read the Bible that is ancient times history. And then along with reading through the Kingdom of God, the chronological historical accounts in the Bible, we also did I Heard Good News Today, which is just wonderful short missionary stories in chronological order. So that was very fun to be able to read, starting with the apostles and then going through. We did not make it all the way to modern times, but we made it to around the 19th century. That was very fun to be able to watch the good news travel around the world and how I got there, and short enough stories to hold my children's attention. And I do recommend that one too. But as far as our American history choice, that didn't end up working out for us. We're going to try Story of the World to supplement with more historical biographies this year, so I can share more about that later. But history is one of those subjects that I'm realizing that me myself was not truly educated in. I was in advanced placement history classes, and just the comprehension questions, I think I would have done much better with narration and just being able to narrate what I was learning. But that is not how the public school teaches history. So I'm learning alongside of my children. I love historical fiction, and I think, yeah, we're going to try incorporating more historical biographies this year because history was really a bust for us this past year. Okay, and then math was another struggle. So I ended up using Right Start Math Level A, and I think it gave my daughter a nice foundation for mental math. And it was easy to take the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and apply it. But it just was not working for us. I end up going back to it eventually. I'm not really sure. I ordered the Charlotte Mason arithmetic series, and we were already so far into the Right Start Math way of learning math that it just was a total shift. And I ended up returning that. So I don't know. Math was really, my children got basic concepts. They can all count. We're into money. We have some fun math board games that we all enjoy. We do a lot of playing with numbers. So that's really nice. I did not want a drill and kill math curriculum. I did not want just worksheet after worksheet after worksheet when our writing wasn't super strong, and math doesn't necessarily have to be taught that way when my children are so young and still growing their writing muscles. So we ended up switching. So I did end up getting Right Start Math Level B, and that would have been nice to switch to earlier for my 6-year-old daughter, because it's very spiral approach, and they keep revisiting some of those things often, which I wish I understood earlier, because then I wouldn't have been taking a mastery approach to a spiral approach curriculum. So again, I'm learning. But we ended up switching to Math with Confidence, and I don't know my thoughts yet. So we will see. But that just felt like a miss this year, as far as I don't want math tears. So I'll let you know. Okay, so our poet for this year was Christina Rossetti. I am still learning to love poetry. Again, it was not something that was in my public school education. My children love poetry. And it is just one of those things that our loves are being reordered as we pursue a classical Charlotte Mason education and learn to delight in these things. But my children found many of these poems delightful. I found many of them dark. So just some of them were pretty dark for me. So we skipped those. But my children really enjoyed many of these poems, and so it's kind of a hit for them, a miss for me. Our last big hit for this year were the readers that we ended up switching to. I had been using the Dash into Learning readers. I think I have yet to follow a curriculum to a T. That's why a philosophy-based education approach is really nice for me. So we started, after that, we switched to, I just do reading lessons for 10 minutes a day. CMEC said 20 minutes a day, and we just could not reach that level of attention this year. So I stuck with 10 minutes. What I think I'm doing this next year is going to be 2 10-minute blocks. So we will do our 10-minute reading time, and then we will do a 10-minute of word building time. So we started with this primer, the Treadwell primer. This was just so wonderful for my daughter. She was like, "This is my book," and I finished it, and it was just so delightful. They have the word list in the back that you can use for the word building. Then after the Treadwell reader primer, I did get the first reader, which we read a little bit of, but then we needed a change of pace. So I got these, what are they called? Pathway Publisher readers. Their primer, primer, however you say it. So this is their grade 1 pre-primer that we started with. My daughter just enjoyed it so much because the children and the storyline and the family life really met her where she is at and her age. And there are 2 girls and 2 boys in this little family. We have 2 girls and 2 boys. They're very wholesome and wonderful, and she just gets into the storyline. So these have been a huge hit for us. She's reading fluently. She's reading to her brothers in her free time. She's just really delighting in reading. And so I'm very pleased with how that has gone for us this year. She read through this one, and then we read through number 2. These are just so wonderful. I ended up putting my child's name in them, and when she finished it, and I would do that for all of my children. So hopefully these last through all of our children. And then she's almost finished with this one. We're just over halfway. This is the grade 1 reader. The little girl turns 6 and she has a birthday, and my daughter is just like, "I turned 6. I had a birthday. She's like me." How fun. So these have been quite a delight for our homeschool this year. Along with those readers, keeping a book of words was so encouraging for my daughter's progress in reading. It really built confidence in her that we could look at this book. So what a book of words is when the child can read a word, we write it in her book. So she was able to look at this list and know, I can read all of those words. So that was really encouraging and gave us our own word list to pull from for word building as well. So I highly recommend that. We used, about an eighth of the notebook. So she doesn't need this anymore. She's growing so quickly in her vocabulary and reading ability. So now we're going to transform this into her spelling book. So this year, as we do more word building and she's growing in her spelling capabilities, we will use this to have her write out and spell those words. So this was really helpful. All right, so that is all that I have for you today. I am excited to share what we are going to be doing in this next year. If this was helpful for you, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, check out that playlist of other homeschool families' hit and misses for this year. Hopefully you'll gain some inspiration for the next year in your homeschooling journey. I will link what I can in the details below, so you can check that out. I will link my favorite resources for learning about Charlotte Mason classical education. You can check that out down below. All right, see you later, friends. Bye.